Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to explain that on air.
Okay, welcome to Hopeifiers H3. Glad to have you with us tonight. I am Nat Capellas, and with me is Brother Scott Sweetman. Brother Scott, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great, and our apologies to everyone who tried to tune in last week for this show, and we had some bandwidth issues, and Al and I couldn't hear each other, but you could hear us both, so it was probably very entertaining for a little while there.
Yeah, it was. Sister Google was not cooperating with us, unfortunately. But anyways, here we are tonight, and we've ruminated about that message for a week. Oh, this is going to be an amazing show. Amazing.
It is. Okay. Yeah, it's something that's really interesting to us. And if you can see behind me, you asked what that was, and some of our viewers probably know what that is if they're in healthcare or if they've had a premature baby. As you know them as adults, but we had our twins in Japan, and that was an amazing time. And they're identical twins. They're what they call one egg, two sac twins, meaning they had their own embryonic sac, but they came from one egg, so they're identical twins. Sometimes the most dangerous twins to have are one egg, one sac, where they share an amniotic sac. Lots of things can go wrong. But in the very last part of the pregnancy, the twins developed something called twin-to-twin transference syndrome. And all of the blood vessels and things get confused or connected wrong. And it's funny because it goes along fine, and then suddenly this happens. Not suddenly, but it appears suddenly. And it's life-threatening. It used to kill a lot of twins and multiples, higher order multiples. But recently it's been getting better. They use some laser treatment sometime to try and separate these blood vessels. And when it happened with our twins, one of the girls' heart was pumping for both of them, and one of the girls' kidneys was processing their body fluids and everything for both of them. So you can imagine how hard that is on one little embryonic heart. They were developed at that point, beating for two growing bodies, and then one set of kidneys working for both. And they were a month and a bit early. So they did a whole bunch of ultrasound, and it was just amazing. They ultrasounded each heart. Alan's tired. He's not finding me particularly boring, is why he's yawning. I have to throw that in. He's been going at like 10,000 miles an hour for the last couple of weeks. We'll discuss that at a later time.
Later, so yeah. I think I got 2 hours of sleep last night, so I'm a little bit draggy today. But
well, I'll try not to be boring. I'll get you talking. I'll introduce it, then we'll do a VU. How about that?
Oh, sure.
That always makes up. Yeah. So anyway, they ultrasounded each little heart, each little set of lungs, each little set of kidneys, and they said, yeah, they're viable. So we're going to take them out now. We had like 2 hours notice. They said, go home, get a change of clothes, come back. We're harvesting them. And they did it in an operating room, and there were so many people in the operating room, I couldn't come in. Each baby had a doctor and two nurses. Fleur had two doctors, a nurse, a translator, and an anesthesiologist. So in this operating room, there was just like no room for me. And they harvested them. Katrina's heart stopped beating for a little while. They resuscitated her. They were both fine, but they were a month and a bit early. So I saw them. I was upstairs having kittens, sweating because it had been 2 hours. I hadn't heard anything yet.
Sure.
And the twins came up in these little boxes surrounded by people in masks and gowns, and they were getting pushed along what looked to me quite urgently. They looked like they were rushing. And the nurse who saw me and thought I was going to pass out said, like, no, they're okay. It's all right. Yeah, it's all good. And so I watched them go into a room like this and get transferred into these little space capsules. And they looked like the strangest little sickly kind of stick people you've ever seen. They're like no fat on them at all, just big heads and little sick bodies. And then I had to wait for another hour and a half for Fleur to come up. And I was getting really nervous about that because I hadn't heard anything. I knew the babies were okay. And it turned out they were just sewing her back up. She had asked for maybe this is sharing too much. She'd asked for a bikini cut instead of where they split them straight up the center. They cut across there, and they weren't that popular in Japan. And so our doctor, who was very progressive, a female doctor, hadn't done one before. So she was taking very careful and exact time to make sure that Fleur was stitched up perfectly. So yeah, it was all good, all worked out. But this room, I was allowed in almost immediately, but Fleur couldn't go in until she could stand up. That was the rule. They were trying to get her to do all the stuff women have to go through.
Yeah.
Hoy bay, if you've never had, well, you've had kids, but to our viewers who've never had kids, I don't care what you go through as a dad. Holy cow, women go through a lot when they give birth. It doesn't matter how they come out. I mean, ours were harvested, they called it. But natural birth must be, well, we know for cattle and horses, women can't be any less traumatic than that. And that's enough to, give you nightmares. So anyway, I was allowed to go in. It was all sterilized, of course. And the thing that they pushed for right away, well, I'm droning on about this for all of you, I'm getting there, is that our doctor was a Japanese doctor, a specialist, the head of NICU and the infant program there. And he had been in California for a long time. And he had started a program called Skin to Skin.
Skin to Skin.
Yeah, I forget the Japanese name for it, but that's what it means in English. And so they, at that time, girls are 22 this year, so 20 years ago, it was kind of groundbreaking in Japan. Like, it wasn't a common thing to have the parents there, but just absolutely as soon as they could, they took the twins one at a time out of the little respirator box, and opened my shirt, and they laid on my chest one at a time. And I was just supposed to touch them and hold them. They were in a blanket, except on the front, their skin was against my skin. Like that. And it was hard, the language barrier, although his English was very good and our Japanese was not so great, just about the benefits to the twins who were, underweight. And of course, development, there's a big concern when twins are born anyway, that they're going to catch up because they're always undersized. And then they were a month plus early. And he said, this is the most important thing. He said, how your twin survival and their development depend on how much you can touch them. And, parents, I'm seeing all this medical equipment. They got nurses everywhere. There's like 12 other babies in there. One of them was as small as a kitten. Like, I can't even describe how, if I hadn't seen the baby and she survived.
Wow.
If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't believe it, but it was no bigger than a kitten. Like,
wow.
She was so tiny, and she was, I don't know, 3 months premature or something. I don't know the details because it was you sort of kept to yourself, right?
Sure.
Because not all of the kids survived and parents were going through a lot. But all the Japanese families and us were all doing this skin to skin thing. And sure enough, he was right. They recovered really quickly. They went home ahead of schedule. They had no problems. They were ahead of schedule in terms of meeting their weight and height and size and mental function. And Dr. Sobajima, if you're out there and you happen to see this, it was because of him and his program of Skin to Skin that I really believe their recovery from being, the whole twin to twin transference thing and being born so early, because we weren't meant to be raised in those machines, right? They're like a fish tank, and it controls everything, air and it's just a constant set of alarms going off in there. Like, it's psychologically, as an adult, it's like a war zone. Like, and just for that moment, you get this precious little person, and it's still, I still get sort of teared up thinking about it, because there's just this amazing feeling of this tiny, tiny living part of you. It's just laying on your chest, and you can feel them breathing, and just that amazing time. So it was very scary and traumatic, and scared the snot out of us. And then within like a day, because they told Fleur she couldn't hold the babies until she stood up and went to the bathroom and did all these things, she was like up in 6 hours or something. Like, I'm in there. And then we could trade off, the skin to skin with the twins. Anyway, so that's a segue into tonight, because you and I look at health, happiness, the hope that brings us all together. And we're always looking for ways that people can improve that, right?
Definitely. No question.
And we're always really big on the low cost, low maintenance, low freak out factor, right? Because some stuff that's good for us is hard to deal with, right? Like, like being a vegan, like that's really sorry, Al.
That's all right. That's okay.
Maybe too early for a vegan joke.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, no, and touch is one of those things that we're all equipped for it. Everyone, every human being, doesn't matter what challenges you have, no arms, no legs, no touch is open to you, right?
Yeah. Incredibly healing, incredibly powerful. Matter of fact, Scott, have you ever heard of, you know who Dr. Gabor Mate is? I've talked to him about a bunch of times. And you know that like he was helping the kind of the people who had the worst substance abuse problems you can imagine in East Vancouver, right? And when he talked to some of these people who were, had horrible addictive problems, they would say, and he asked them about getting a hit of heroin, right? And they would say, it's like a warm hug. It's like, this is what, their best way to describe the experience of this powerful drug was like getting a hug from another human being. I mean, what does that tell you about the power of that kind of contact, right? So,
well, when I started to look at it, I was just blown away by the science behind touch and hugs. Like, it's massive. It's not, like folk magic, or it's nothing that's an antidote. It's proven science, like hard science. And I can say that from the twins. But when I was reading through it, it's talking about how nurses and doulas and midwives have understood this in every culture at all times. Like, this is not, science has caught up to our ancestral knowledge of our own health and welfare. Right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And you were talking recently about how you were learning about mushrooms, right? And how science is finally catching up to the ancestral knowledge of some of our indigenous friends, right?
I mean, you think about it, 10,000 years ago, or 20, 50, whatever, how many thousands of years ago, we would have been in a small tribe. We would have been out all day foraging around, that kind of a thing. I mean, we'd kill animals when we had to kill animals, but most of it would be from berries and roots and leaves and that kind of stuff. And the knowledge bank of wisdom was kept with the elders generally, right? And they would know, oh, you have this problem, you have diarrhea. Okay, this is the plant. You have 3 of these leaves and you're golden, right? And everything. Now you got me all excited. Now you got me energized there, Scott. all of the only difference between medicine and poison is dose, right? Only difference. So I know there's mushrooms that kill people and there's plants that kill people, but if you look it up, like belladonna, you've heard of the poisonous plant belladonna. But if you ask, hey Google, what medical conditions does belladonna help?
On the website everydayhealth.com, they say belladonna has been used in alternative medicine as an aid in treating arthritis pain, colds or hay fever, bronchospasms caused by asthma or whooping cough, hemorrhoids, nerve problems, Parkinson's disease, colic, irritable bowel syndrome, and motion sickness. I also found an answer.
Hey Google, stop.
What is belladonna used for medically?
Hey Google, stop. No Google. Okay, God, Google settle down. But my point was belladonna, this thing, a poisonous plant that people can die from, in a small enough dose, cures like a myriad of health conditions, eh?
But the Egyptians, okay, I may be lying to you, but I think it was the Egyptians.
Okay.
It could have been early modern period. I'm a little confused about the time period. But belladonna was actually, women would put drops in their eyes because it would dilate their pupils, making them look more aroused. They would give them bedroom eyes. And like, we've used it for all kinds of things. But as you said, it's definitely poison in the right amounts. And arsenic can be a cure in tiny amounts, right?
Yes.
Things like that. So it's just really interesting to put some context in this. Like, how many times a day do you think you touch somebody in the normal court? let's say outside of your house, so not your Corolla or the, Caitlin when she was home, outside of the house, and you might be an exception because you're a friend.
I'm an exception.
Yeah. How many times do you think the average person touches somebody else in a positive way?
Two times a day.
Oh, you're pretty close, buddy. Yeah. Actor named pioneering psychologist Joar. She was American. Was American? No, she's French, I think. Anyway, she did a big study in the 60s. And so time of love, right? When we think of the 60s, I was born in 66. I figured my parents were hippies, must have been, because that's when I was born. But so in the 60s, they went to England and they observed friends at a coffee shop. And she was observed for an hour. And she would count how many times they touched in an hour, right? Mm-hmm. People who weren't, and then apparently she would interview them afterward to make sure they weren't husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, or that they were just acquaintances, friends, right? And so in England, she started her tour in England, apparently. Two friends touched each other on average of zero time.
Wow.
In England. Yeah. When we lived in England, not a touchy kind of people. No.
Yeah.
Not a
well, I can tell you I am the exception, because today I probably hugged, I don't know, 7 people today. Like basically, people that I met along the way. Hey, give me a hug. So I hugged a bunch of people. And you know what?
I'm always looking forward to an Alan hug. I haven't had one in a while. I'm kind of.
Oh, they're amazing. They're amazing. I don't know if do you recall yesterday you and Michelle and I were having a conversation, and you said, "Hey, you should write a kids book." And remember that? I wrote it. I wrote it. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
I wrote it last night because you inspired me.
This is copyright Alan Friesen 2023, just to be clear.
Exactly. Thank you.
I don't want to see this published by somebody watching the show later.
Hey, you know what? Crank up. Can you record this part, just this? Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load it up to DistroKid as a new song, a new spoken word thing. Okay.
Okay. Just give me a sec here.
Yeah.
I'm a pro. I can do this. Okay, come on now. Okay. Just 1, 2, 3, go.
The loving scarf. My grandma had a loving scarf that I remember well. The weight, the texture, and the smell. She filled it with love each and every day and shared it with those along the way. The scarf had an amazing feature. It could store love without end from any living creature. She hugged dogs and cats. She hugged moose and rats. She hugged mice so small. She hugged giraffes so tall. Everywhere that Grandma went, she offered her hug to all. Humans of all size, shape, and color. They shared what they had and expressed the good, the sad, and the bad. When the tears had flowed, the seed for gratitude was sowed. Forgiveness and love started to flow. A celebration of that beat in the heart, the miracle of breath as our inspiration, the energy infused scarf started glowing and glowing. Her scarf held the key for health, happiness, and hope for you and me. This loving scarf, I have it now. So when you see me on the street, and our eyes, they do meet, know that my loving scarf is open wide for you to come and rest inside.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. We just talked about this last night, man. And you can
stop the recording.
I can edit it after. I have that technology too.
It's even good leaving that on. That's fine. And applause. I don't often hear that. So that was great. So anyways, I just came to me. You and Michelle had suggested it. And I went and talked to Corolla and said, hey, you want to write a story together? And she was busy doing something else. And then so I started writing, and I wrote the whole thing in about 10 minutes. And then later on, I came and added that one little verse at 3 a.m. or something. So
that's excellent, buddy. That's really good. Yeah. Creativity, man. It just takes a spark. But
can you send that recording to me so I can upload it to the DistroKid thingy?
Yeah, you bet. Okay. I'll do it when we're done. Okay, so Al's a loving, hugging kind of guy, but he's 100% right. In North America, in bursts of enthusiasm, those are the doctor's words, we touched each other twice on average in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a little bit higher than the British, but get this. In France, can you guess how many times in an hour?
I got to think more, like 6 or 7 or something.
Yeah, 110 times in an hour.
110 times. 2 in Canada, 0 in England, 110 times in France.
Yeah, they're not even the leaders, though.
Really?
Yes, the leaders were almost all South American, Latin countries, but Puerto Rico was at the top of the list. Guess how many times in 1 hour acquaintances touch each other at a coffee shop?
Man, I have no idea. I was so off on the other. Just tell me how many.
180 times.
180 times. Oh my goodness. That's incredible.
Yeah. And of course people say, you know, oh, well, you can't in our culture, people will sue you and accuse you of, you know, misconduct and all those things. But
do you know, have you ever been with somebody who is really like, as they're talking to you, they touch your hand, or they, you know, have you ever had a conversation?
My family's very touchy. We all hug.
Yeah.
We're big German huggers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it really draws you in, right? It really connects you with that person when, like, and I'm not taking any kind of sexual way, but basically just that they touch your hand or touch your forearm or that kind of thing. It, you know, it really, you connect.
But it supported completely by the data, and it just goes on. So we were talking about infants, like my daughters, Tiffany Field, a leader in touch research, 15 minutes, newborns, preterm newborns, which my twins have fallen into, 15-minute sessions of touch each day for 5 or 10 days gained 47% more weight than premature infants who just received standard medical care.
In the book, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, he talks about this woman that he worked with, that Dr. Bruce Perry worked with, and she was like a big black mama bear, like a big, you know, she was just about loves and hug for everybody. Didn't matter what age or what size or what, everybody got, and everybody did well in her presence. Everybody felt restored by getting a hug from this woman, right? So yeah,
no, it's amazing. And Darlene French and Michael Meany did similar studies using rats because of ethical reasons and things, but rat mothers that licked and groomed, because touch is really a grooming grooming function, right? Like, not that we need to groom each other, but it's what primates do. We're way down on the list. Primates spend, normally large primates, the ones we're non-human primates, spend 10 to 20% of their day in grooming behavior to each other.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So that's huge. When, you know, we don't, like, none if you're British, twice if you're North American.
Yes.
So that's pretty sad. But anyway, yeah, so they did this study, mother rats who licked and groomed their babies a lot. Their babies grew up to be more resilient, more calm, less skitterish, and suffered less health problems, less problems associated with stress, and they had a much stronger, scientifically proven immune system. Not, you know, I think that they do better. Not proven. Their immune system, the antibodies in their blood, much stronger than rats who didn't get that love and care.
Yes.
And you know what's really interesting is this, and they looked at Darlene and Michael that I was just talking about. They did research in orphanages as well, and the policy of orphanages changes. And basically, to, you know, cut it short, it didn't matter if these were your biological parents or not. If the people running the orphanage provided you a lot of physical care and touch and love, and, you know, and were embracing people, the orphans did just as well as the children that were with biological parents. But the children, regardless of whether they were with biological parents or with non-biological parents, or even caregivers like in an orphanage, who didn't get that touch or care, weren't as resilient, had weaker immune systems, and suffered more from mental stress. Right? So,
have you, Scott, have you heard the term failure to thrive as it relates to
I like it.
So it's just basically a thing where, you know, there's no medical reason, but the child just keeps losing weight and losing energy and just like passes away, right? And a lot of it's related to the isolation the child has, because they're, let's say in a big orphanage and they're understaffed, and those kids just don't get attention, kind of a thing, right? And they just like wither away to nothing, right? So
I've seen it lots in animals growing up on the farm.
sure.
There's just some animals that they failure to thrive, and often wild animals, especially, often we don't give them the care that they would interpret as love and attention. I remember rescuing rabbits that had been hurt by a swather or something, and
Yeah.
they didn't usually live that long. I had a lot of luck with birds. A lot of birds I rescued did quite well. Yeah, mammals not so much. Anyway, getting back on topic here. So yeah, big thing. And you're always talking about the vagus nerve. So when it came up, I was like, Al's going to be interested in this. One of the 12 cranial nerves, the vagus nerve, right, runs down through the central nervous system. It helps our body in resting state, helps lower the stress hormone cortisol. It also increases our natural killer cells, according to Dr. Field, who's a researcher, Tiffany Field, PhD, director of the Research Touch Institute at the University of Miami. Cool university. Wow. I want to go to that program.
Yeah. Hey, can I just interject one thing, Scott? Charles Darwin in, I think, 1871 identified the vagus nerve. He called it a different name, but it was the bioneural network or whatever he called it, kind of a thing. But he identified it as the place where we would feel heartache and where we would feel like a knot in our stomach, right? That it, that kind of a thing. The terms that we describe for, very negative, powerful events in our lives, kind of a thing, that's where it would be communicated. But it also be communicated the other way for some very positive direction through our somatic experiencing that we can choose to do. Go on.
No, I was just, it's really interesting because our man Chuck was way ahead of his time in his thinking, obviously, and lots of great stuff. A lot of it's been misinterpreted, but I went back recently and read some of his original works, and it's worth the read because a lot of common sense about Charles Darwin's theory, like survival of the fittest, isn't correct. It's survival of the most adaptable.
Yes.
Not the fittest in the way we think of fittest, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to Dr. Fields, she and her team did a lot of study about touch and the stimulating pressure receptors in our skin, and this is something I didn't think about. But and what she was looking at is this only, like, do you grow out of it? Okay, so we've proven that it's beneficial to children, right?
Right.
Yeah. But does it benefit adults? Is it something that, like we lose our baby teeth and we don't need fluoride anymore? I don't know.
So adults don't need touch anymore, you're saying? That's
she wanted to study it. Yeah, she wanted to study it and say, okay, some people say, oh, well, kids need that, but adults don't need to hug and do that stuff. So she was looking at that, and what they found was that the biochemical reactions happen throughout our lifetime. They don't go away or anything as we get older. And when we touch somebody, they actually activate pressure sensitive receptors in our skin and under our skin that send neurons that go through the vagus nerve. So it stimulates communication along the vagus nerve. And it does all kinds of things like we've talked about, lowers cortisol and releases more killer cells and strengthens immunity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But your level of serotonin, right? Our old friend serotonin, body's natural antidepressant, goes, and pain reliever increases by this pressure. And okay, she said, that's really cool. Lowers cortisol.
Is that your puppy in the background?
Yeah, that's the Akita, and his mom's not home. His mom's in Edmonton, as we were talking about. So this is when she should be home, and he's letting everyone know.
Mom?
Yeah, he says, "Where's my mom?" And my office is closed, and it's also where he goes to look out the front window to wait for his mom to come home.
He's having a tough day right now, eh? Oh
He
my
is,
goodness.
yeah. And
I'm
then
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Scott. I just
no. And then about 8:30, he'll get fired up because Katrina's not home. They're together. So
okay.
it'll calm down when he gives up on mom coming home soon. And then he'll get fired up and he'll be back at the window waiting for Katrina to come home.
Got it.
He's sort of given up on Sabrina.
Uh-huh.
She's the errant puppy that has fled the pack, but he still wants Katrina home on time. So anyway, yeah. So we're talking about that all of these happen, pressure on the skin. And then she said, well, is it only when other people touch us?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. And yes, there's other benefits. Like she's not saying that it's all the same.
Dr. Shelley, can I interject? Dr.
Yeah.
Shelley, Spirit Chief,
Yeah.
she taught a course on EMDR that I took. It was really, really good. Actually, Bruce Perry her and Bruce Perry taught the course, and it was about ancestral ways and modern healing, kind of marrying. Here's the science, but here's how they did it for 10,000 years, right?
Yeah.
And like you put these in together. Oh yeah, this is the same thing, right? But she had this butterfly hug, so it's a bilateral stimulation, right? You're working on both sides of your brain, and you're kind of hugging yourself with your forearms and just kind of flopping your hands against your biceps there, or your shoulders, depending on your length of your arms. And I'll tell you what, it's a super, super calming type thing that, like, you can never go wrong with it. Now, could people say, oh, that looks stupid? Like, yeah, they could, but who cares if it works for you? And also what works, and you know this, Scott, you've been doing it, haven't you? You've been doing the VU breath, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I said we we're going to do a VU breath. Do you want to throw a VU breath in here, and then we'll carry on? We always have time for a VU breath.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, the VU breath, man. Try it out. It's great. It's like
you don't
touch.
have
like
to sing it like that. You can just go VU like that. It works still just as well if you just do VU. And if you have anybody around you, it is healing for them as well. But it's even more healing if you do it yourself.
I listen to you when you do it lots of times, but I have my own take on it because I like making noise rather than
singing. What do you do? How do you do it?
I resonate it, and I can feel it. I move it up and down from
demonstrate.
Okay, I'm not good at this, but I'll try.
You're good at it.
I start and I go. And then I can feel it right there, right?
Yeah.
And I bring it back up.
Nice. You know what, Scott? Here's what I can assure you. You are the world champion at knowing how to breathe like Scott Sweetman optimizes himself. You are the best in the world because you're the only one of the 7.5 billion people who can do it the way you do it.
Oh, it's true. And I know for me, being pushing myself to have control over it, it's like when I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for a month and a half when I was 13 years old, bleeding internally, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And I was bored out of my mind. So I used to have fun pranking the nurses by lowering my own heart rate. And I got so that I could bring it quite low intentionally when they were taking my heart rate. And they figured that out after the first couple of freakouts. And then they would slap me. And of course, as long as I couldn't keep concentration, I couldn't do it. But yeah, so I enjoy that, being able to. So for me, controlling the resonance in my body as I VU is.
And what kind of body awareness do you have when you can control your heart rate, right? When you can slow your heart rate? That's pretty impressive, right? And I think we all have that capacity. And when, like, you think of a placebo, right? If you had a racing heart and I gave you this and said, hey, this is going to lower your heart rate, and you believed it, it's going to lower your heart rate. That's what's going to happen, right? No question.
No. And
so some of the goofy things that we do they are only effective to the degree that you believe them to be effective. If you believe that a VU breath will cure everything in your body and make you super healthy, it will.
Works the other way too.
Yes.
Right? Like if you believe it's not going to help you,
Yes.
then it probably won't. Right? Like and I know that I've seen lots of instances where somebody believes something won't be effective, and it just isn't for whatever reason. And at times we need to suspend our disbelief. We always say that, right? Being open is like, it should be our default position. It should be our
reality.
neutral,
If
right?
you had your femur broken and the bone sticking out of your leg, and somebody gave you morphine and you believed it wouldn't help, you'd still experience the same amount of pain, right? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And talking about touch and getting back on that, they were the research they were doing was discussing how oxytocin is important for aiding and healing, right? And how that, because, and a lot of this went through, and I read a whole article about how COVID affected people's ability to touch. And nurses are like on the front lines of touch therapy. Traditionally, nurses, when they take your blood pressure, they hold your hand. When I've been really upset, or when I've got a crazy high fever and I'm full of infection and they don't know if I'm going to make it, having somebody come in and hold your hand, or touch you on the shoulder, or change a cloth on your head means the world. Like, you feel like, oh, I can fight through this. If you've never been there, it's a miracle. It's just like suddenly you have more will to live, that this person has gifted you the energy or the drive or the determination to stick it out a little bit longer. And I know that when my grandmother was dying of bowel and stomach cancer, it was important. The family had to let her go because she was holding on for the family and suffering. Right? And so it wasn't until she knew that everyone was okay with it that she was, able to pass on. So it certainly affects how we heal.
And our power, like, so, I know that Corola's grandma, like, didn't want to be here for like 10 years, but her body was so strong, it took her 10 years to convince her body to just shut down, right? That was the reality. If she wanted to live, she probably would, like, if there was some reason for her to live, some purpose in her life, some difference she wanted to make, she would have probably lived another 20 years and have been in good health. I believe that purpose. What do you, Scott? Do you think this is true? If you have some kind of purpose or mission or something you want to achieve, that automatically gives you a big boost in your health and vitality.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. And I think that's what touch does, at least when I've been really sick and been on the line, and I've been there a couple of times, is that touch gives you a reason, because you feel that at some level as being a primal need, a primal want, right? Like, there's so much, I don't want to say pleasure, but there's so much satisfaction, so much
joy. How about joy? We call
life.
it.
Yeah, life.
Yeah,
joy.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. In that touch, that you just want to keep fighting, and I think that it does give you that goal.
I mean, I believe Louis Schwartzberg. Wait a minute, have you watched Fantastic Fungi yet?
You only told us last night. I haven't had time. I was like working at 5:30 this morning, man.
What the hell? I told you last night. You haven't.
I know you wrote a book, and I haven't even watched Fungi.
Come on, Scott. Get with the program. Anyways, Louis Schwartzberg. I encourage everybody to watch it. Wait a minute. I'm going to make this better. If you want to wait, on Friday, March 31st at Sunnyside School, so down on Sunnyside Road, AEF Services, Alan Friesen, Certified Employee Benefit Specialist, and his colleagues are going to host a community fun event where we're going to air the movie Fantastic Fungi. We're going to have some snackies and some drinks. We're going to have somebody do some face painting. We're going to have some balloons. Nice. And we're going to have a little kind of a community get-together little party. I think as well, I am probably going to recite publicly the Loving Scarf. That's what I think I'm going to do there too.
Nice. That's fantastic. And of course, hugs are free, right?
Hugs are free. Hugs are free.
Date
Yes.
and time again, Al, for people
It
like
is
me who...
Friday, the 31st of March,
Yep.
7 p.m. at Sunnyside School, which is located on Sunnyside Road. If you're on the way from Lethbridge to Coaldale, the first road you get is Sunnyside Road. You turn on that, you go, when the pavement ends, the school is right in front of you. So
on the right-hand side of the road if you're headed north.
Yes, right-hand side, exactly. So, and I will be there, and I would be honored to give you a hug if you end up showing up there.
Do you have your loving scarf there? I saw you
Yep.
looking at you. Do have it there?
This one right here.
Yeah,
I should be wearing it.
That's what started it last night, right? We were talking
Exactly.
about your loving scarf. And turned into a book already today. Well done, sir. Well
Exactly.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and money, we're gonna make some money, Scott. And who are we gonna donate it to? Is your idea? Who are we gonna donate that?
Donate it to kids and women who need help and shelter from the...
Perfect. That's what it's going to be. Anything that any money that is raised, it's going to support keeping women and kids safe from violence. Having them to have some safe place to go.
It's true that men do suffer from violence. It's not only women and children, but unfortunately, the percentage is much higher for women and children for lots of reasons.
I think we should clarify. We basically want to use it to protect humans of all age and gender from violence. We want everybody to be safe. So how do we do that? The ones that are most risk of being harmed, those are the ones we want to try and protect more than anybody, right?
But I was just throwing that in there because we're not discriminatory. Like you say, nope. We want everyone to be safe. We don't want
people... We want everybody safe. And how important is safety to your body being healthy for you to heal? Super important. Crazy. Super important. That's what a ventral vagus response does. Puts you in that safe healing space where you can heal and totally be relaxed and restore. You even get younger and better looking, Scott. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, you have. I don't know if I'm getting there, but hey, and I want to tell you about an interesting study.
Yes.
That shows.
Did I take us off track again?
Do we ever get on track? That's the question. Right.
Scott,
if we had a little buzzer.
I'm going to try shut up for a little bit and let you talk for a while.
No. We're doing good. We always do good. That's why the other last week when you said go ahead and do it by yourself, I'm like, what? I'm just a monkey in this circus, man. I just sit here and do the research.
I appreciate you. You're awesome, Scott Sweetman.
So anyway, what else can we do with touch? Right? It heals. It makes us happy. It does all these kind of things.
Well, it's pretty expensive though, isn't it, Scott? It costs a lot of money to do touch. Like you have to pay somebody $50
really expensive. Well, yeah. But we also communicate through it. And I was blown away by this. There was a study, at 2010, NBA published in the Journal of Emotion, which is a psychological publication, a scientific publication, that the basketball teams that do more high fives and hugs and team buddy bumps and that are more physical with each other win more. They perform better.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And then they did another study in a lab this time, not just on the basketball courts, and they put a divider up between two people, and one person put their hand through, and they couldn't see the other person at all.
Yeah.
And they were given a big list, like I'm trying to find the reference here to see how long the list was. List of emotions was long, like 12 or 13 different emotions, right? And the other person had to touch them and convey that emotion in like one touch, like 1 or 2 second touch. And normally the percentage of getting that right was completely random, whatever random, like it was 1% above just complete guessing.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like almost nothing. But the touch, when they could actually touch, right? It went up to 60%. They got the correct emotion. So the premise behind this was, I haven't explained the whole test very well, but the point is that we can communicate through touch very complex emotions. And in some ways, and we've all been there, and that was sort of the point of the article that I was that I'm pulling this out of. It's from a journal called The Well, WELL, not a place where you get water, but a place where you're healthy and happy and age 3, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll explain that now if you know next time. So they really found that touch is such a fundamental part of the human experience. And that's why the non-human primates spend, up to 20% of their day touching each other and grooming each other. It is fundamental to the human experience. And we've just come through a period of traumatic.
Hey, Scott, describe how horses groom each other.
Lots of ways. They nibble. They nibble.
And usually when one's nibbling at the neck, the other's nibbling on their butt or whatever, right? They have, it's a reciprocal type thing they got happening, right?
Dogs do that too. We call it corn cobbing because you know how you eat corn.
Oh yeah.
Dogs do that too. Most animals with hair do it, and what they're doing is they're actually, I'm explaining this, it probably doesn't need explanation, but they're actually drawing the hair through their teeth. It up moths or dust or things that are in the hair follicles. So for animals that don't have fingers,
how do you think that everybody knows that? How do you think that everybody knows that? Thank you. I didn't know that. That makes sense. There's an actual biological reason they're doing it, but it's also very, like, as a sentient being, very much a joy to receive that kind of attention and give that kind of attention, right?
The proof of that is that these horses or dogs are in barns. Like my dogs never get fleas and things. I mean, they may encounter them. They're not doing it for that. They're doing it because it feels good, right? It makes them happy, right?
Yeah,
and
brings joy to them. Yeah,
your dogs and horses. I've had horses groom me. I had one of my show horses. His nickname was Jay. You can probably tell when he was born. I didn't name him. A girl in the States who raised him named him, and he was called Mr. Star Wars. He was a world champion, man. And we brought him up to Canada, but he was world champion gelding, and I called him Jay because I couldn't bear calling him Mr. Star Wars. At the time, it was perfectly acceptable because Star Wars was a big thing then, right? And his coloring looked kind of like a galaxy, is I think why he was named Mr. Star Wars.
Wow,
but
he's a beautiful.
Anyway, he would groom me. Like he would also, if I was drinking Coke and by his stall, he would grab the Coke and drink some of the Coke. One day he reached over and grabbed my hamburger. Horses aren't meat eaters, but and there was somebody doping horses. Do you know what that is at a horse show? Yeah. Somebody was going around and injecting other people's horses with drugs because you get disqualified. Not only that, it ruins your reputation, right? So it's a big deal, right? It's like especially at the Nationals or a world show, like a big show, hundreds of thousands of dollars could be riding on the show. Yeah. Just in prize money, not to mention prestige and breeding and all sorts of things. Anyway, so what we had to do, us, the family, and all the grooms, we slept with the horses. And boy, I woke up and Jay was spooning me. Literally, when I fell asleep, he was standing, and I thought I'd wake up and he'd be standing over me. No, he said, "Oh, if Dad can lay down, I can lay down." And he was literally curved around me. I don't know how. This 16 and a half hands horse in a box stall laid down and spooned me without waking me up. I woke up and I see his legs in front of me, and I can feel his chest behind me.
That's connected. Corolla does a thing with her horse Sugar, where she goes and after she rides him, then she just kind of leaves him to run loose, kind of a thing, and then she'll run and then stop, and then he'll run and stop, and they have a little game, and then he'll go running and farting and kicking, and then come right up beside her again, right? Okay, what's next, Mom? What are we going to do now, right? Yeah. He just loves that connection, that attention. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're really fortunate, and this is where I think we've talked about resonance before. Obviously, I don't speak horse. Corolla doesn't speak horse, although maybe Corolla does. She's better at it than I ever was. But we have a connection, right? And, animals that are around. Sorry.
How much more do you have on our agenda here? I just thought of another idea.
Okay, go ahead.
I wrote another song. It's called Corolla's Raining Song.
Okay.
And if you want to record another one, we'll record it, and then you can send it to me, and I'll upload it to DistroKid.
We're going to have to advertise our show as the Acapellas live recording studio. Be a part
of it. Okay.
Hold on. I misclicked. I was trying to record a different window. I don't want to record a different window. Okay, come back here. Ooh, up a little bit. Yeah. What's it saying here?
Ooh, don't want that one. That song's about a fight. That isn't going to be a very good one. Okay. Oh, this is a piece of lyric that Caitlin's going to gave me. You start a conversation like you are addressing your congregation.
I love that one.
Okay, here's Corolla's raining song. Corolla and Sugar are riding today. A personal best is coming their way. You two are one. Let's see an amazing run. Sugar, you are smart and strong. Make them slide straight and long. Circles smooth and slow. Circles fast and clean. You know what I mean. Corolla is linked to you now. She taught you well. Show her how. Spins that are right on time. Spins that stop on a dime. You know what I mean. Bring on that speed. Show us your power. Smooth and strong is where you belong. Smooth and strong is where you belong. Bring on that speed. Show us your power. Smooth and strong is where you belong. Corolla and Sugar are riding today. A personal best is coming their way. You know what I mean.
Nice. Well done. That's fantastic.
Okay, so I wonder how many of our loaded up on DistroKid too.
Okay, I gotta turn it off here. It's gonna keep recording it. So there you are. Okay.
Yeah, don't edit them or nothing. We'll just do them the way they are.
Okay. So those of our listeners who don't know, reining is an equine athletic event, a sport, and it used to be, equine sports went through sort of a dark period where the animals were basically abused. Majority of, I can't say that. I don't know. A lot of people broke horses, right? They didn't train horses. They broke them. And we treated people that way, right? Yep. I mean, athletes were broken too. I mean, it's coming to light that things, athletes were forced to take drugs. They were put through, trials, and their bodies were pushed and broken, and they thrown aside. If they, bring on the next one, we're going to pump them full of drugs. And all that went through a really dark period of time. But we've come through about the time I went to Meredith. So I don't know, 25, 30 years now. The science has started to catch up to the tradition, right? And we started to realize that these animals are incredible athletes. And if they want to do something, they're going to do really good at it. If they're being forced to do it, they might do it.
You're not going to find this surprising, Scott, but Corolla is all about harmony with horses, right? Which would be your perspective as well, right? Yeah. You have a connection with the animal. You respect and appreciate and value the animal. That animal knows that, you know what? Maybe it's wrong to call it an animal. Maybe that soul that's in that form knows that connection, feels that connection, right?
Yeah. And I could always tell when I was training, if somebody would use the word own.
Oh, yes.
Like twice, I was done. I'm like, okay, thanks very much. I'm full.
Bye-bye. Okay. What's the term should be used?
I own this horse. I own this animal.
Right.
No, you don't own it. You have the privilege of looking after it. Right. And it's, yes, of course you own it legally.
Right.
But you can't own another living being. I don't believe, because you don't own his soul, right? I mean, like you said, you maybe
wait a minute, Scott. What newsflash? Are you saying that slavery was wrong?
I'm not even going there. I'm just saying universally, I don't believe you can own a soul. Period.
I understand. Yeah, so, I get it.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Sorry, that was supposed to be funny. I missed it entirely, but I apologize for that.
Well, no, obviously it was wrong. But at all times, there's something in us that makes us want to control other souls, whether they're animals or people or whatever. And I know as an individual that I have to work on that, right? Because we've associated with being masculine and being assertive and all of these things with controlling other souls, right?
Fantastic Fungi. I'm not even going to talk to you again until you
Until
watch
I watch
Fantastic
this.
Fungi. That you're off my communication list until you watch Fantastic
I'll
Fungi.
do it when we're done
Okay.
here tonight. I'll do
Okay.
it. But yeah, and I really think getting back to what we're talking about here is that equine sports and child development, all of those things, we've come to realize that when you motivate something, when you treat it with love and respect, when you show it what you want it to do, and it understands it, it enjoys it. Like Jay and I were partners. I didn't own him; he was my friend.
Louis,
I mean, that
Brother
sounds
Louis
really weird.
says that we our reality and nature, mushrooms, and mycelium is our model for this, that we are caring, collaborative creatures, right? That's our nature. That's our
Yeah.
nature, to help, to care for each other, to support each other. Now imagine how far we could go, how easily, with what kind of ease, if that's how we went through our life. That everybody that we're going to meet, we're going to try and help them move along the way, and they in turn are going to try to help you along the way, right? How smooth and frictionless would life be for all of us, right?
Yeah, and I know for me, I probably had 10 real friends in my life.
Yeah.
I've had hundreds of people that I love and care about, but really, people that I would end my journey for, not counting family, that I would
Mhm.
say, okay, you need to carry on your journey. I'll end mine here so you can carry on.
Mm.
About 10, right? And
Yeah.
4 of them have been animals.
Uh-huh.
So that's my
Right.
perspective is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've had
I get it.
animals, horses and dogs that I've connected with at a soul to soul level. And of course we don't, I mean, they learn my language. I don't know why. Well, Hoshi, I understand his language. I know what his yowl for mom is, and I know what his no is when he doesn't want to do something. Akitas are incredibly vocal out of all
Are
of the
they?
dogs I've ever owned. Oh yeah. He
Oh.
talks a lot. Doesn't bark so much, but well, unless he's angry, but he talks a lot. He tells you what's on his mind. And it's funny
Mm.
because our little pug that's been raised by him has
Mhm.
started to mimic his
Mm.
language.
He's picking the language up. Yeah, eh?
Oh, and I'm
Cool.
sure people watching this think Sweetman's finally lost it. But yeah, the point of touch is it's a way to communicate. It's a way to stimulate the natural healing, the growth, the positivity. There was a study done by big bankers and commerce and, the man, if you will, and banks. And the easiest way to get people to follow you was touch.
Hmm.
The thing that increased loyalty than more money, than more benefits, than all of these things was touch.
Hmm.
People that were comfortable, hugging an employee when they had a new child, or, shaking their hand when they did something exceptionally well instead of just pushing a check into their hand.
Yeah.
I'd take both, the check and the hug, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And across all the spectrum, we have these tools, and this is, I think, what H3 is about. What it comes down to it is just rediscovering those tools, right? You and
Yeah.
I, these two dudes on a journey, we find these really cool tools all the time that make our journey better, right?
Yeah.
And we run across all these amazing people that have done things, taught us things, written things, experienced things, and if we're just aware of them and open to them, boy, life gets easier and better. Yeah.
Oh, Scott, if I might just interject, we've had some fan feedback come in. We got little hearts happening and likes and everything. And this woman, I don't know if you've ever heard of her before, Corolla Friesen.
I have. Yeah.
She says, loved the loving scarf. Oh, thank you so much, honey.
Oh,
I don't know if you heard the kind word, the true description of your horse and harmony type beliefs, but Scott and you share the same thing, that the relationship with a horse can be as fulfilling, as important as any relationship with any human, because you're relating to a soul, and that soul is just inhabited in that body, and that body, like my body, like your body, has that same miracle happening in your chest, and the beautiful inhalation, the miracle of breath entering your body every few seconds, that we all share that. Oh my goodness. What a gift.
I was just thinking of Al. I was thinking that I'm really envious of people. Like I can resonate with animals. I resonate with people. usually. But I admire people that resonate with nature. And like, I love nature. I love going out there. I feel connection to the moon. I feel when I'm out and see the moon, I feel really
Scott,
energized.
sorry, my bride and I are having a conversation now.
Sorry.
So she says, so I didn't have to sell any horses. I've said too much. Oh my goodness.
And I recorded it, Corolla. I have it now.
Oh, oh.
He's done.
Well, you know what? I don't know if you know this, but as of late, I have been quite loquacious. And my bride has accompanied me on many conversations so that I would stay on the high road and not go into the ditch. So my ribs on my left side have got a few beat marks on them where hey, stop. And then sometimes a little more direct. She just puts her hand over my mouth.
Good for her. Good for her. That's one of the things I've always admired about Corolla, is that she can keep you in check, because I've tried and it's impossible.
It's a big task. It's a big task.
Yeah, I just get caught up in your crazy and then roll right along with you. So,
hey, I got to tell you this, but I have if I'm the yin, I have my yang, and that is my new colleague. Oh my goodness, him and I are gonna do a lot of really good stuff together.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll have to have a show and get you guys together and talk about it.
Yes, yes.
That's good. Well, we ended up a little bit off topic, but I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think we were right on topic.
Do we have an agenda? Is there anybody flaming us or writing us nasty notes?
Anyone who watches us with any regularity knows that it's just a trip of amazing serendipity mixed with about 2 parts of crazy. And we love life, right? And we just hope that the people who join us love life too.
Can I add in one more thing while we're talking? Or do you got to go? Are you worn out?
No, I'm not. I'm good.
I was tired when we started, but now I'm energized. I'm feeling good.
I can see it in your face.
I wanted to tell you a show that I also, no, not a show, I don't know what you'd call it. Soul Study is what it's called. And it's through the Kingdom, Justin Michael Williams Kingdom. Okay. I did their 40-day transformation, I don't know, 6 months ago. Yeah. And the biggest thing that came out of that 40-day transformation, it changed my life, is the mantra that I'm supposed to be for meditating, but I just use it all the time. I put it on every night when I'm going to sing, is connecting with a generous and joyous flow. Connected with a generous and joyous flow. So what I'm trying to do as I navigate through the world, as I encounter every being that I encounter, that I'm having this generous and joyous flow. I'm happy to be there. I have the time to be there. I want to enjoy this experience and be present with that being whom I'm with.
Cool, man. What's your trigger for that? What triggers you into that frame of mind?
Well, I just try and relax, get to my very relaxed state. And that VU breath, which now I've learned for, I don't know what it's been, 12 days, something like that. Yep. I've been doing it every day. And sometimes even I've had some challenges sleeping as of late. And I'll just do the
from
VU
excitement.
Breath.
Yeah, from excitement
and the whole hypomania thing.
Damage, yeah.
So anyways, I do the VU breath, and the VU breath is basically as restful, as relaxing as sleep. So it's just like, okay, I'm not sleeping, but I'm doing something that's restoring me in an equal but different way. Yeah. So anyways, it's amazing. I've been doing it all the time, and it's so simple. It's just now add some vocalization.
Nice finish. You know.
Okay, that's enough. Wrap it. Take us home, Scott.
From the Acapellas Alan Friesen, my friend, and myself, Scott Sweetman, we are H3, Hope, Health, and Happiness. We'll be right back at you next Thursday night, same time, same place on Just TV. Be well, my friends. Take care, Alan.
Gitamatsen to our indigenous brothers and sisters.